Okay, we are on Films Gone Wild with Lanie Zipoy from The Subject. Well, this is was this going to be our fourth interview that we've done about this movie?
Yeah, I think so. So thank you. Thank you so much, John.
Well, no, yeah, it's funny because I was talking to another filmmaker that's played a number of my fests, and I go, it's I love this because I'm fan, subject another as another thing that I'm a fan of the film, so I'm very happy to dig into it from all different angles, and but I also have to tell you, I also get not paranoid, but concerned that I want to make sure that you're not doing an organ grinder situation where you go, here we go, here's the question about Jason, here we go, here's this question.
Oh, I can talk about Jason all day, so no problems there.
All right, so for the purposes, in case somebody from who's tuned in here has not seen The Subject as of yet, why don't you introduce our audience to what The Subject is about?
Yeah, The Subject follows a successful white documentary filmmaker who he's dealing with the fallout from his previous film, which was a huge success. But during the making of it, he caught the murder of a Black teen on tape. And now, as he's doing a new documentary series and sort of wrestling with his conscience, someone else is following him, videotaping his every move, and it's very threatening to his idyllic life. So that's really what it's about.
Okay, you did not write the script.
No, it's written by Chisa Hutchinson. Mm-hmm.
Right. So the script found you, or you found the script. So let's talk about that to start with. How did it happen?
Yeah, it came together because I've known Chisa for about a decade or more. She and I met in theater. I produced a play that she was one of the writers on. It was a collaboratively created play. We kept in touch. I was looking for a movie to make, and she's like, well, I've got this, maybe take a look at it. And so I did, and I just couldn't stop thinking about it. It just was one of those things that I would go to sleep, and when you start to dream, when it enters your subconscious and you're thinking about it, it's like, oh, this is the one I have to make. And so then we talked, and we were on the same page about it.
Well, here's why I wanted to talk to you about this, because the films that I make are the films that I write. And, and so the idea of directing something that someone else wrote is something that I'm not familiar with. And, and having somebody direct something that I have written, I have done that. And so I wanted to start off by talking about that and in talking about your relationship to the material and how you kind of come to a point where you own it because you're the one who's going to be putting people through their paces.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I think, this relationship between writer and director, particularly in the indie world, right, where you are in such close quarters with each other and in lockstep working together, which is, I think, very different than the studio system. It's really important, I think, that you be engaged. So I think it really helped that we were friends and that we could really talk about the script, like really get into the nitty gritty. Chisa was on set as much as she could be. She's very busy with her other life and jobs and work and stuff, but she was invited every day on the set. As I said, we met in theater. In theater, the playwright is a little bit more central in a way and is often in the room. So that felt very natural to me, but also we just had a lot of respect for one another. And, as I'm planning my next project, which I won't have written, I do write, but the next one I won't. The first thing I said to the writers was, we have to be really simpatico because we're going to be spending a lot of time together. It's not just on set, but then it's talking about the film. Chisa's involved in interviews. She saw a rough cut. I wanted her to be part of the process. It was also her first feature. And we've both said that I don't know that it could have been a more divine process than it was. It felt really collaborative with her and with everybody who was involved with the project.
Cool. Well, the other question that I want to have, and of course I joked about it at the beginning of this, talking about Jason, and oftentimes, when you have a top lining star like that, and everybody's saying, what was it like working with him? Blah, 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 whatever. But here's the question that I have for you and what I want to delve into. Oftentimes, that's the reason you got to make the movie, because a guy like that signed on. And so many filmmakers go through that angst of like going, how am I going to find that guy or that woman that's going to inspire somebody to write me a check for 10 grand or 25 grand, and I can cobble those together to actually make the movie. So talk about how Jason, let's start off with this, how he came on board.
Yeah, so we essentially had a discussion of actors that we wanted, and his name came up in our first session, and it was like, oh, this is a really interesting idea, because this is a character, Phil, that he plays, is in a moral dilemma, and having somebody who has a little bit of lightness and likability to the role would mean that the character is experienced differently than if it's somebody who's has a lot more darkness, let's say, with what they bring. And so we just reached out to him. I was lucky that funding was not dependent on the cast. So that was very, very lucky. I can imagine in those situations, and I'm about to enter in those situations, just how stressful that is. So we just sent him a letter. I wrote him a letter. We share a lot of things in common, tennis. We even have some mutual friends who've worked in theater and worked with him for many years ago and had great experiences. So I just wrote him and told him why I thought he could do the role and how exciting it would be if he would consider it. And he did. I mean, pretty much that was it. And I think also he knew we were out to ingenue for the role as well. And I think he really wanted to work with ingenue. And that was, I mean, let's face it, he took a chance on a first time filmmaker and me. And it's really different if you're doing this sort of operatic role and Martin Scorsese asks you to do it, right? You're like, okay, somebody who's been working in the business for 50 years, I can trust my life and my career. But that he took that chance with me it really says a lot about him.
Well, it does. And also that relationship sets the tone for the entire film. Because, if he's a guy that, immediately goes to a trailer, of course, in the kind of budgets that we're talking about, I'm going to doubt that you had a trailer.
No trailer.
Right? But,
no trailer.
Right? And, but you know what I mean, as far as like, I'm just checking in, checking out. I'm on the clock for 5 more minutes. You can do one more take, kind of thing. There's no way that you can handle that, or that would make it just really, really uncomfortable in trying to pull off the film in the first place, and then, give this person that kind of attention, right?
Yeah.
So talk about that.
Yeah. I mean, I think I always say I'm so grateful he was number 1 on the call sheet, because he really set a tone. He's been doing this for 35 years, since he was a little kid. So beyond professional, also can just hit his marks, and I have a lot, I work in comedy as well. And I have a huge reverence for people who can do comedic work. I think it's really underrated. Your ability to hit a mark, to hit a line, to all of those things, that precision that it requires. I mean, he brought that on set in spades, and then was lovely with cast and other crew. I mean, he fights people, he makes out with them, and everybody felt really comfortable around him. He's funny, like he keeps things light, but when we needed to drop in, it was really, really amazing. And, when I was young, I thought, I want to work with those method actors that take forever and whatnot. Now that I've worked with Jason, I really don't think so. I think I want to work with Jason Biggs again and again, especially on an indie film. I mean, I think if you have like all the time that you need with somebody who's really just you have to talk to them in character the whole time, that can work. But when we're trying to, get things done quickly and whatnot, but yet give them time, really working with somebody who's as amenable, affable, and sets a tone like Jason did, it's joyous.
I was on a panel with actors and production people recently, and we were talking about the process on set. And I was telling a story on the feature that I directed, and this one actor, and she was great. She was amazingly talented, but she also had questions. And it was the kind of questions, I don't know if you, Louis C.K. used to have this routine where he talks about talking to his daughter, and his daughter asked him a question, and he gave her the answer, and then she'd go, but why? And so then he would answer that question, but why? And then he answered that question, and it kept going on and on until he just questioned his actual existence, right?
Right, totally.
And, and actors can do. There's a type of actor that can do that to you. That they're asking you a question about their character, and you go, well, she does this and this, and yeah, but why? And well, it's because she does this, and because she came from this. Yeah, but why? And and you reach a point where you're going, just say the line. Jesus.
No, absolutely. I mean, that's where I use the 2-year-old rule, because 2-year-olds ask that why all the time. I'm like, well, why do you think? Like, let you bring a little bit to it. But likewise, I produced a movie and it was like that. We had a pickup shot at like 4 a.m. on a pier. And literally this one actor's line was, do you think she's coming back? And it took about 40 minutes for him to get in the place where he could ask that one line, had his acting coach. This is on an indie film, 4 a.m. at a pier, had an acting coach there working with him. And I understand he needed that for his process, and I'm not trying to belittle it.
Right.
But it just was really like, it's one line. Do you think she's coming back? I don't know. So I was glad that Jason was not that. Like, Jason was really easy to work with and just lovely through and through.
Well, now and then the and again, it's funny because I started with a joke about people always asking about him, but I think for other filmmakers in the position of trying to make a film like you did, and and being fortunate enough to have a person that has a name that people recognize, that you don't have to describe as, well, he's that guy that did this thing, and you go, okay, that's not a name.
Exactly.
The moment you have to do that, that's not a name. But then going through that process now, you've been fortunate enough. I mean, the film is good. It's not like people are giving this to you. But now this film is a multiple award winner. You've played a number of festivals. You're on the track to then have a solid distribution with it because of this track record. You had, well, I mean, listen, the tea leaves say that if, if you've done this and this and accomplished this, and people other than your mom or dad have given you trophies and awards, and audiences have cited it for awards, then you go, at some point, a distributor is going to say, yeah, let's do a VOD thing, and and we'll put it out on our on our label, so to speak, what have you. But now there's a thing of like, how invested will he be to do like PR for it, to support it in that way, to do, I mean, obviously we're in a different place because were we not in COVID land, I would have been emailing you going, well, can Jason come to this festival? Can I have both of you on the red carpet? That kind of situation. Talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, Jason is really proud of the film. I think he's really proud of his work and love working with Ingenue. He has done some virtual talkbacks for us. There have been a couple that he has done that have been really great and funny. And I actually learned things from, which is always great to get the fresh perspective from the cast on it. So I do think that Jason will be involved, in Ingenue as well. She and I were just texting yesterday about the film, and Annabella Costa, who plays Jess. So people, this was a really special project. People took it on, not obviously because for the riches of a big, a money maker, but they took it on because they believed in what the film has to say and that they could bring something to that conversation. And that was really inspiring. And I think it continues to inspire them. I mean, I think they've all been sort of amazed at the success that we've had thus far. And I have been too. I'm glad that it's, that it's meaningful, that it's playing a lot of festivals, that people are seeing it, and that it's gotten some recognition, particularly for their work, which I think really deserves it. And I think they're great. But yeah, I can see Jason doing, if we could have a red carpet, I think he would be there.
Right. Okay, final question, and now I want to bring it in and do a filmmaking question, because usually that's what I always center these on. But we've talked about the film so much that I got a chance to talk about some other stuff. Without spoiling anything, I want to talk about the ending of the movie, because with a movie like this, you need to score the landing, right? It's like a gymnast doing the horse. You know, you've got, you know, you've got to nail the landing for this movie. And I want to, and I would love for you to talk about the preparation that went into it. And then after that, when you're in the editing bay of like going, okay, we need to shave a 30 seconds off of this, we need to do this or whatever, because we need to really, in that final exchange, in that final scene, we need to have it really, these characters spark off of each other in the right way. Talk about that.
Yeah, it was a huge challenge. And probably if I weren't a first-time filmmaker, it's not one I would have taken up lightly, or, you know, I may not have even done it, because it's a huge, momentous sort of operatic scene to put together. But it was really fun. I worked with my director of photography, Darren Joe, in mapping out every single sequence of creating it. And we were, to be honest, at that time sort of inspired by a scene in the first season of Mindhunter, and the way that it was like 3 people in a room, and I think it was 13 different camera angles. And so I rewatched that scene over and over again and sort of unpacked what that meant and how we could move the camera around the room to create visual diversity. We also shot that scene on 2 cameras so that we could shoot it out in a shorter amount of time for the actors, both for emotional reasons, but also so we could get different angles on the same take, so we could use that in a way. And that, I think, was really, really helpful for it. But in terms of editing it, we did cut about 7 to 10 minutes out of it. So it's even longer. And there were bits and parts, but the good part is that the actors are so fantastic. We probably could have used every take in the scene. And to be honest, I think only once or twice we went above 3 takes for anything that was in that scene. Like, it just was really nailed. Shooting it over the 4 days was a challenge, because we did a rehearsal. Our rehearsal period was only 3 hours of talking through the scene the day before, but they had already worked on it. I'd already talked to them about it, but it was just the 2 of them together. And then it was just joyous. It was wonderful. But we shot 2 days, and we had 2 days off. And I was a little concerned about that at first. But when we returned for the final 2 days, we went through 11 pages before lunch. And then I was like, oh, there's no concern. Like, actually, I think the 2 days off in the middle just brought freshness to the very end. We also shot it, obviously, in sequence, because I think, you know, often movies are shot out of sequence, and that you can handle, but I don't think it would have been advisable for this scene. We really needed to see how it was shaping up.
Right, right. Well, I'm, you know, and I'm especially sensitive to it because in my film, The Ladies of the House, you know, we ended up not using the ending that we shot because it just didn't work. And I was fortunate enough to have an amazing editor that worked with me and my producers to come up with an alternative ending that, for us, fortunately, was truer to the themes of the film overall. And you know, and so when I watch an ending like that, I know, I immediately have, you know, PTSD, you know, flashbacks to, you know, to me shooting mine, you know, and having an actor go, you know, you go, do you not know how to swing a baseball bat? Come on, you know, right? You know, and those kind of things that happen as you're director. Go, what?
Yeah.
How does this information come to me now at 4 a.m.? What? And so I was watching it going, appreciating it, and then really looking forward to talking to you about that, about going, okay, you did score the landing. How tough was it? Right?
Yeah, well, thank you. I mean, I think you cast great actors like Jason and Anjanou who really had chemistry. They really did, and they wanted to do well for each other, and they really believed in what that scene has to say and what needs to be unpacked in it. And the writing led us a large way with that. But yeah, we also wanted to keep it with length. You know, I think there have been people who've said, oh, it should only be 10 minutes. And I'm like, the point of the film is that these conversations are never had, not in this totality. You'll have a character who will say something for like 5 minutes, and then you're done. But we really wanted it to be a roller coaster experience for the audience, and honestly to feel slightly uncomfortable and not know where it was going to go.
Right. Well, like I said, I think you landed, you stuck the landing, as they say, you
Thank
stuck
you.
the landing. And I'm a fan of the film. Again, we've been talking about the subject with our director, Lanie Zipoy. Of course, I can have countless conversations with you about this thing. So
Well,
nice to have
thank you,
you.
John. Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay.